Laura Burns, Head of Terrorism Research for George Washington University's program on extremism. And with me today to continue discussing the Hamas, or the evolution of the Hamas terrorist organization, is Senior Research Fellow Jennifer Baker.
Hi, everyone. Laura, when we left off in episode 9, the federal government had just raided Infocom, a business run by Alashi brothers that was situated right across the street from the HLF.
That's right.
And CARE made public statements in defense of Infocom.
Yes, they did. And as we talked about last episode, there were statements made by CARE leaders in defense of the Infocom company, and there was an article located in archived media entitled "Raid on Texas Business is Anti-Muslim Witch Hunt," says Muslim leaders, dated September 8th, 2001. And there we see a picture of CARE leader Nahad Awad, along with some other individuals like Rafiq Jabber of the IAP, coming together in support of Infocom. But one thing we did not mention in the last episode on this topic that's relevant is that in the late 1990s, CARE created its started creating official chapters in various states, and including Texas. And the CARE Texas chapter was incorporated in Texas on September 29, 1998. And Ghassan Alashi, a leader in the HLF, who had also been involved with the IAP, and who attended the conspiratorial Philadelphia meeting, and who also led Infocom, the company raided by the FBI in 2001, he appeared on CARE Texas's Articles of Incorporation as a director. So he was like one of the original founders of the CARE Dallas, Texas chapter.
So that's very interesting. Do we know if he stepped away from his duties?
So the official documents with the Texas Secretary of State do not reveal when his name was removed officially from the organization, but in filings that I did find after the search of Infocom, he no longer appears listed as a director, at least officially.
Okay. And that Infocom search produced quite a bit of evidence that we discussed in the last episode.
Yes, and that Infocom search ended on September 10th, 2001. And the next day, as we know, terror struck the United States.
But we are on the phone with an eyewitness. Rosa, can you hear me? Is Rosa there?
Hello?
Rosa?
Yes.
This is Jim Ryan here in the studio.
Hi.
What is your last name, please?
Cardona Rivera.
Oh, Cardona. Rosa Cardona Rivera. Tell us what you saw and heard, if you would, please.
Okay. I'm at 99 Hudson Street. I was standing outside, actually, at the side of the building smoking a cigarette. And I hear a plane, and I don't usually see planes in this area. Then all of a sudden I saw it go right into the World Trade Center. To the building.
So right, you saw a plane crash into the side of the World Trade Center.
Yes, sir.
And
I'm like on the 14th floor, so I was just like looking out, because there's like a fire, something like fire staircase or something, just like a little balcony.
I'm told we have a witness named Jim on the phone, an eyewitness. Jim, are you there?
Yes.
Jim, what's your last name, Jim?
Last name's Friedel.
Jim, tell us what you saw, if you would.
Well, I was looking out the window, and normally you'll see planes kind of flying low over the Hudson, but this is a large plane. It's something like a 727, and it was banking, and the only reason I kind of looked at it is because I thought it was rather low. Banking very hard, and then it just drove right through the World Trade Center tower.
What's your vantage point there, Jim?
I'm actually across the Hudson in Hoboken, but I have a clear view right at the World Trade Towers.
Now, it did seem to you that it was done on purpose?
I don't know if I can say that, but it was a very odd type of turn. It was headed directly at the building. So whether that was on purpose or not, I can't tell. I don't know if he was trying to avoid or they were headed for it. Describe that turn for us, would you? It was particularly heavily banked? It was pretty heavily banked, maybe 45 degrees. Again, hard to tell. Jim Friedel in Hoboken said it appeared to bank sharply and smash directly, perhaps purposefully,
into, oh my goodness.
Oh, God.
There's another one. Oh my goodness, there's another one.
This seems to be on purpose.
Oh my goodness,
Another plane?
now it's obvious, I think, that there's a second plane just crashed into the World Trade Center.
Yes, Laura, I remember that day. And just like it was yesterday, I was a young agent with the Air Force Office of Special Investigations and actually set to travel to Colorado Springs for a training. And everything was put on hold, and I'll never forget that day. It was all hands on deck at the office, and my life was changed forever, as I'm sure it was changed for you and a lot of other people.
Yes, it certainly kind of set the course for my, I guess, purpose in life, I feel like. I was actually working in the FBI office in Dallas that morning. I was working on Infocom-related materials because we had just finished the Infocom search. And a young agent I get chills thinking about it still, ran down the hall of our office and said, a plane just hit the World Trade Center. And I remember I was holding a red pen and I dropped it. And we all in our office that we shared ran down to the supervisor's office at the end of the hall to watch the one television, that existed on the floor. I mean, this was 2001. And we were watching and talking about and speculating about what had happened. And we're watching as the second plane flew through the South Tower.
That's crazy. Yeah, we were doing the same thing, and it's amazing what details you remember about that day. But in amazement, we all huddled around watching the second plane hit too, and it just, to this day, still remember those details.
Yes, and I mean, if you're too young to have remember the event, to say that every emotion that you can possibly imagine is what we were all feeling. We were feeling fear and anger and denial. Right, that terrorists actually walked into the United States and attacked our homeland and killed thousands and thousands of people.
American 11, are you trying to call?
The cockpit is not answering their phone. Our number 1 has been staffed and our 5 has been staffed.
I am going to call from Washington. I am in a situation with American 11, a possible hijack.
What's going on, Betty? The aircraft is erratic again. Problem, very erratic. Betty, talk to me. Betty, are you there? Betty? Betty?
A plane just hit the World Trade Center.
What?
The 737?
What?
The World Trade Center.
Who are you talking to?
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
United 175, New York. We have some problems over here right now. We might have a hijack over here, 2 of them.
Jules, this is Ryan. Listen, on an airplane that's been hijacked, and things will go well, and it's not looking good. I just want you to know I absolutely love you. I want you to do good. So have a good time. Same for my parents and everybody. And I just totally love you, and I will see you when you get there. Bye, babe.
What are those people going to do? All the elevators are blocked out.
Oh my God. So both towers are now.
Okay, now I got an aircraft 6 miles east of the White House.
Hello? Crystal City, just north of Crystal City.
Just to the north of your town.
Yeah, stop all departures.
Pentagon just got hit. You know, for me, and God damn it, I can't even protect my NCA.
United 93, that traffic for you is 1 o'clock, 12 miles eastbound 370.
Negative contact, we're looking, United 93.
United 93, Cleveland, if you hear the center ident.
I got that piece of dog. Keep remaining steady. You have the ball, boss.
Tuesday, 9:47 a.m.
Hi, baby. Baby, you have to listen to me carefully. I'm on a plane that's been hijacked. I'm on the plane. I'm calling from the plane. I want to tell you I love you. Please tell my children that I love them very much. And I'm so sorry, babe. I hope to be able to see your face again, baby. I love you. Bye.
We're 56865. We have, I believe it is a Boeing 757. Can you see him up there, sir?
That's confirmed. It looks like he's rocking his wings.
Roger.
He's flying talking back and forth.
Number 56865, I advise you stay away from that aircraft. Go north as fast as you can.
United 9-3, have you got information on that yet?
Yeah, he's down.
He's down?
Yes.
When did he land?
He did not land.
Oh, he's down?
Yeah,
Down?
somewhere up northeast of Camp David.
Sean, it's me. I just want to let you know I love you, and I'm stuck in this building in New York. There's lots of smoke, and I just wanted you to know that I love you always.
At number 2 World Trade Center, right. Ladies and students in the office, we're not ready to die, but it's getting bad.
I'm on the 83rd floor. I'm gonna die, aren't I? No. I'm gonna die.
Ma'am, say your prayers.
God.
We're going to think positive because you got to help each other get off the floor.
I'm
Now,
gonna die.
A new type of war. That's what it is.
It was truly life altering. And so began the war on terror.
September the 11th, enemies of freedom committed an act of war against our country. Americans have known wars, but for the past 136 years, they have been wars on foreign soil, except for one Sunday in 1941. Americans have known the casualties of war, but not at the center of a great city on a peaceful morning. Americans have known surprise attacks, but never before on thousands of civilians. All of this was brought upon us in a single day, and night fell on a different world, a world where freedom itself is under attack. Our war on terror begins with Al-Qaeda, but it does not end there. It will not end until every terrorist group of global reach has been found, stopped, and defeated. With every atrocity, they hope that America grows fearful, retreating from the world and forsaking our friends. They stand against us because we stand in their way. We're not deceived by their pretenses to piety. We have seen their kind before. They are the heirs of all the murderous ideologies of the 20th century. By sacrificing human life to serve their radical visions, by abandoning every value except the will to power, they follow in the path of fascism, Nazism, and totalitarianism. And they will follow that path all the way to where it ends, in history's unmarked grave of discarded lies.
So those videos bring back powerful memories.
Yes, they do. Again, it's just like yesterday that I remember that, all of those feelings come back.
So with all that was happening with Al-Qaeda, did Hamas stop its wave of violence?
No, it did not. And on December 1st of 2001, it killed 11 people and injured about 180 people when explosive devices were detonated by two separate suicide bombers around 11:30 p.m. on a Saturday night on that busy Ben Yehuda Street, the pedestrian mall in the center of Jerusalem that's been hit several times before, as we've discussed. And then a car bomb exploded nearby about 20 minutes later. And of course, Hamas claimed responsibility for the attack.
I am a mom of 5. I live in South Florida. I grew up here in South Florida. I traveled to Israel at the end of 11th grade to do a study abroad year at 17 years old for my senior year of high school. And on December 1st, 2001, I was in a terrorist attack at the hands of Hamas. So I was, a regular freshman in college. There was about 80 of us in our dormitory, all from different countries. And my flatmate, because there was 4 apartments in our flat, had just been going through a rough time with friends. And, we had had an evening of doing laundry, which was less exciting than getting out of the dorm. And around 10:30, I said to her, like, you're upset and I understand. Why don't we go out for a cup of coffee? We can do laundry on Sunday and grab a bite to eat. And so she said yes. And the two of us left our dorm, hopped on a bus, and went to Ben Yehuda Street, which was very normal. I tell people, you think of Ben Yehuda Street, you think of walking through Manhattan, through Times Square. It's a pedestrian area. There's taxis and there's people and there's restaurants and everything's open till 1, 2, 3 in the morning. In South Florida, you compare it to South Beach, where everyone's out and hanging around. And it's kids mostly on a Saturday night. You're not really, it's not families. It's young 15, 16, 17-year-old kids looking to go out and have a good time. And so we entered a bagel store on the corner of Ben Yehuda and Yavo Street. And I remember the bagel store being packed, that like you had to stand in line in order to place your order. And then there was really nowhere to wait once you had placed your order. And so we made our way to the front, and we each placed an order for a bagel and a coffee. And after we placed our order, instead of staying in the restaurant, we stood outside on the street. Excuse me. We stood outside on Yaffa Street waiting for our orders to be called. And while we were standing there, the 2 suicide bombers detonated themselves on the corner of Ben Yehuda, a couple hundred feet up the street. So the bagel place had what I assume is, from South Florida, everything's electric. What I assume they were working with was a gas oven. And as soon as the 2 bombs went off, the ground shook and fire leapt out of the restaurant at all the people standing in there as a buildup from the gas coming out of the oven. And at that point, you really weren't sure where you were supposed to run. It was clear, listen, those years there were suicide bombings, unfortunately, on a frequent basis. Recently, I looked it up. There were 88 attacks that year. So as soon as you heard those 2 explosions and you saw the holes, you knew what had happened. And the question was, nothing prepares a child for walking. Nothing prepares an adult for walking into something like that. And the question is, where do you go? Do you run? Right. Do you run up? Do you run down? And, what seemed like a century, I remember the sounds of silence in the beginning, before the sirens and before the ambulances. It was just dead silent. And we were trying to figure out, like, where is safety in this situation? And this other friend had been meeting someone up the block at the frozen yogurt place where the suicide bomber had detonated themselves. And so we weren't sure, do we go that way or do we go the opposite direction? And the friend who had met up with us said, I'm going to go in that direction to see if he's there. You guys should go the opposite direction. And unfortunately, the opposite direction, we were met with a 3rd bomb that was placed inside of a car, where about 3.5 minutes after the first 2 explosions, where everyone is just, it's the chaos. The ambulances are pulling up. They can't pull up the street because of the construction and the sheet metal. So they parked right at the bottom. So you would think that would be a safe place. I was leaning on a street corner at the end of Ben Yehuda. There's a little street called Rev Cook, which I must have passed 100 times that year and never known the name. I'm leaning against a little white car, and all of a sudden, a gentleman in uniform starts screaming in Hebrew, run, 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 and it wasn't clicking. And then he switched to English, run, and we all took off running. And next thing you know, that car was in flames. And they had set off that 3rd car to go after EMS.
So with the war on terror in full motion, did the U.S. take further action against Hamas?
Yes, they did. The United States government, on December 4th of 2001, so 3 days after this Hamas attack on Ben Yehuda Mall, designated the Holy Land Foundation as a front organization for Hamas and closed its doors and seized all of its assets.
Laura, is that you in the bottom corner?
Yes, that was me many years ago on the date that the Holy Land Foundation was shut down. In fact, on December 4th, 2001, the Treasury Secretary and a number of other government officials made statements regarding this designation, and the Treasury Secretary here in this particular article from WFAA.com stated that this organization, referring to the HLF, exists to raise money in the United States to promote terror. And it goes on to say some individuals within the community are opposed to the designation, but President Bush was noted in this article as saying money raised by the Holy Land Foundation is used by Hamas to support schools and indoctrinate children to grow up into suicide bombers, Mr. Bush said. Money raised by the Holy Land Foundation is also used by Hamas to recruit suicide bombers and to support their families. But according to Ibrahim Hooper of the Council on American Islamic Relations, those accusations were too vague, and they were political statements, not criminal allegations. Further statements by officials noted that once the money is in Hamas's network, it goes to all Hamas's activities. And American officials declined to detail the evidence behind Tuesday's blocking order. Officials also said that Hamas political leader Musa Abu Marzouk donated to the Holy Land Foundation in the early 1990s, and that his wife investigated an Infocom Corps, a company across the street from the foundation's Richardson office. Speaking in Damascus, Marzouk told the Associated Press that he had personally donated money to the Holy Land Foundation, but that Hamas had never received support from it. He said, quote, "I supported the foundation and not the other way around." Treasury Secretary Paul O'Neill dismissed that assertion, saying the Holy Land Foundation only masquerades as a charity, while its primary purpose is to fund Hamas. Finally, an article from Dallas Morning News reported again statements by President Bush about the designation of the Holy Land Foundation and said the facts are clear. The terrorists benefit from the Holy Land Foundation, and we aren't going to allow it. Foundation President Shukri Abu Bakr arrived at the organization's office Tuesday afternoon to attack the seizure as a political move to appease the Jewish lobby in Washington, and stated, if the Holy Land Foundation had violated any U.S. law, they would have charged us in a court of law. They wouldn't need to seize our assets.
So I see that CARE condemned the designation.
Yes, CARE issued a joint statement with some other organizations stating that the HLF was merely a charitable organization that had been targeted by pro-Israel organizations, and that no one to date had presented any evidence to support the designation of the HLF as a specially designated terrorist. One of those organizations in the joint statement with CARE was founded and run by a man named Abdul Rahman Al-Amoudi, and who he was a senior U.S. Muslim Brotherhood member at the time, who the year before, in 2000, had made statements to the media claiming or saying, do you hear that, Bill Clinton? Quote, we are all supporters of Hamas. And then he went on to tell the media that he was also a supporter of Hezbollah, both of whom, the Hezbollah and Hamas, were already designated as terrorists at that time by the U.S. government. Mr. Al-Amoudi would then go on to be charged with multiple felonies, including violating U.S. sanctions against Libya. And in those court pleadings where he was charged, not long after this joint statement with CARE, the court pleadings talked about his affiliation or his attempts to conceal his affiliation with Musa Abu Marzouk, the architect of the US-based Hamas infrastructure.
I remember that case against Al-Amoudi. It's very interesting, and he was convicted.
Yes, and maybe we should talk about that on a later episode.
That's a great idea, Laura. So back to our topic when the HLF was shut down. Was anyone arrested?
None of the HLF leaders were arrested that day, but that was to come later. But on that day, the institution was shut down, and its offices in New Jersey, San Diego, Chicago, and Dallas were all shuttered. And I want us to take one last look at what the United States President George W. Bush and Secretary O'Neill stated that day about the designation of this HLF terrorist organization. I'm going to read from this because I think it's important to understand the context under which this organization was designated. And this is President Bush in a written statement. Today, we take another important step in the financial fight against terror. From the beginning of this fight, I have said our enemies are terrorist networks of global reach, and all who harbor them and support them are our enemies as well. We began with Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. We identified some of Al-Qaeda's financial backers, and we moved against their accounts. In November, we advanced further and identified 22 more global terrorist organizations. And now we are moving against their financing as well. At midnight yesterday, the Treasury Department froze the assets and accounts of the Holy Land Foundation in Richardson, Texas, whose money is used to support the Hamas terror organization. Earlier today, federal agents secured the offices and records of the Holy Land Foundation in Texas, California, New Jersey, and Illinois as a part of an ongoing investigation. At the same time, we have blocked the accounts of a Hamas-linked bank, a Hamas-linked holding company based in the West Bank. The message is this: those who do business with terror will do no business with the United States or anywhere else the United States can reach. Hamas is an extremist group that calls for the total destruction of the state of Israel. It is one of the deadliest terrorist organizations in the world today. Hamas has openly claimed responsibility for this past weekend's suicide attacks in Israel that killed 25 innocent people, many of them teenagers, and wounded almost 200 other people. Hamas is guilty of hundreds of other deaths over the years, and just in the past 12 months, it killed 2 Americans. And today, we act. Hamas has obtained much of the money that it pays for murder abroad right here in the United States, money originally raised by the Holy Land Foundation. Our action today is another step in the war on terrorism. It is not the final step. There are more terrorist networks of global reach and more front groups who use deceit to support them. The net is closing. Today, it just got tighter.
So, Laura, what happened to the other organizations, the IAP, the UASR, and CARE?
Well, at the time, they continued to operate. By this time, the IAP was located in Chicago and held an annual festival. And so in December of 2001, it held its annual festival. And that event featured speakers that included Samuel Arian, an individual whom we will discuss later because he, a few years after this, will be convicted of supporting the Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorist organization while working as a professor at a university in Florida. But nevertheless, he was one of the keynote speakers at this IAP festival in December of 2001, along with UASR leader Ahmed Yusuf. And so when talking about what was happening with these organizations, interestingly, 16 days after the HLF was designated, an entity called the Muslim Legal Fund of America was founded in the Dallas, Texas area as a 501c3 tax-exempt organization. And its original registered agent was the HLF's accountant, or he was until the organization was shut down in December of 2001. And this Muslim Legal Fund of America, what we call the MLFA, will be discussed at much greater length in future episodes. Thank you all for listening to us, and please join us next time for the next episode.
Thank you. See you next time.